I hated the original Superglide. I thought I was insecure enough already after being betrayed by those I love, but with the original Superglides, I couldn't even trust my mouse to not slowly slip away like everyone I've ever liked. And while it was really good for some people, I personally could never ever use it. Since my first ever experience with glass mouse feet though, which was like 6 months ago, a lot of things have changed. I've gotten much better with my mouse control and I've hit Ascendant rank in Valorant, which is a lot higher than the plat I was on. So when Pulsar sent over the Superglide V2s, I was definitely very interested in testing them out. Perhaps these were better controlled than the V1s. Perhaps these fit me better than the V1s. Perhaps these... oh wait, they sent over GPRO X Superlights. Pulsar! So in a bid to test things better for you, the viewer, I went and bought a GPRO X Superlight in 2023, even though this is a 3-year-old mouse, which is kind of ironic. Also, if you want my 2023 retrospective on the GPRO X Superlight, subscribe because that is coming real soon. So, is this any good? My first impression of these were actually really surprising. The stock PTFE feed of the GPRO X were actually faster initially than my Superglide V2s. Now, this is not very scientific, but it was definitely a notable difference that even in real-world use, this felt really slow. It made me feel like I was using a old, muddied-up QCK mousepad. That was how slow it felt. To make this mouse actually feasible to use though and test properly, I swapped over to much faster mousepads like the Artisan Raiden and the Highstar Mirai, which review coming soon. And this I found was a good setup, especially with the Highstar Mirai, which is kind of like a high-end type mousepad. High speed and very rough. And it matched really well. It felt quick, snappy, and you expect from a Superglide, although this was probably more of the mousepad at work rather than the mouse feet at work. Within a few hours of gaming and aim-labbing though, it did start to feel suddenly really too quick for me, too slippery for me, like the original Superglides was on any mousepad ever. Almost like after a little bit of a break-in period, the V2s got quicker, and on the Mirai, it started to feel very slippery and icy, which you might like, but it wasn't quite for me. And so I swapped back to the ES1, and I realized that now after breaking it in on a rougher mousepad, this was just nice. The Superglide V2s got, to a nice level of slipperiness, but still had some control to them. I would say that compared to your average PTFE feed that you find on the Viber V2 Pro, or even the stock feed of the GPX, the Superglides are definitely smoother. But compared to the V1s, the difference between the glass feed and PTFE feed is much smaller, so it's less of a massive jump in a different direction when you're switching to Superglides. It is definitely faster, more slippery, and has a little less grip and control, but it is faster, and that is what some people want. The biggest difference in my opinion when switching to glass feed though is really the fact that with glass feed, you don't really feel the vibrations or the textures on the surface of your mousepad. I'm guessing this is because glass feet are so rigid, so they don't really mold or bend into the shape of whatever is underneath them, rather the other way around. And as a result, you don't really feel differences in surface texture when going from mousepad to mousepad quite as much as PTFE feet. That's because no matter where you put these glass mice feet on, except for a glass mousepad, which is not recommended by the way, it's going to be the harder of the two materials that are touching each other, since glass is so damn hard. Which does give for a more consistent feel, a nice smoother feel when you flick, with less vibrations and bumps kind of translating to your hand, though this is a very small difference that really doesn't matter. Either way though, the V2s are a drastically different experience to the V1s I've tried on the Pulsar X2 Founder Edition, because the V1s had this glossy finish rather than matte one. On the V1s, the glossy rather than matte finish, which you find on the V2, genuinely felt like you were gaming on ice, where even holding your mouse stationary in one spot was harder than getting a heroin addict to quit. With the original Superglides, you started to question whether your caffeine intake was too high or whether you had Parkinson's, simply because your mouse would just be super hyperactive with them. With the V2s, it feels like good old PTFE feet, but with better glide, at better speed, and a smoother feel that feels more consistent throughout rough textures of a mousepad. As for other things, well, the glass feet supposedly could ruin cloth pads, but I haven't tested it long enough to know for sure whether this is a fact, so I will have to wait and see. Installation, by the way, if you're concerned about that, is also super duper easy. I would say actually easier than normal PTFE PTFE feet, because PTFE feet are soft, so they can kind of bend as you're placing them on. With glass feet, it's a rock solid piece of glass, so it has to fit one way. If not, it won't fit at all. So, is the Superglide V2s a good idea? Well, it's definitely going to be less extreme of a change coming to this than with the V1s, and it will be more familiar to the average gamer than PTFE, all while providing tweaks in feel that for some will be a nice improvement. But it's not going to be overly dramatic. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe.